Welcome to Learn English Easy. Considering who we're talking to today, maybe we should have kept the bowing lesson in.
A little posture practice never hurt anyone.
I'm your host, and I am here to take a very large stack of very serious, very dense, and sometimes very internet argument-heavy research and turn it into something we can all actually use.
And I'm joining you as always to make sure we don't get too carried away and to, actually uncover the nuance in that stack of research, though I maintain proper conjugation is the foundation of a civilized society.
I'm sure it is. But see, this is what I deal with. Seriously, how are you doing today? You look oddly prepared.
I'm doing well, thank you, though I admit I am feeling a bit, shall we say, exposed by our topic today. And we also have some fascinating analysis from a Dr. A. Badra on the very concept of a gentleman and how that definition was shifting right when Austen was writing. So it's a lot to unpack. We have to separate the man from the meme.
Let's do it. Let's unpack this. We are putting Mr. Darcy on trial. And like any good trial, we need to start with the charges. The prosecution. The case for Darcy being, well, a total stuck-up fool.
And where else can we start but at the beginning? We have to look at the evidence, the first impression.
The Meryton Assembly. This is the moment he walks into the room. And honestly, if this happened today, he would be canceled immediately. Social media would destroy him before he even got a drink.
It is certainly not a good look. You have this community gathering, right? Everyone is dancing, spirits are high, it's a party. And here comes this wealthy, handsome stranger who just refuses to participate.
Right. But it's not just that he doesn't dance. It's the manner of his refusal. That's what's so key.
Yes. We have this source from the Bookhaven that cites John Walsh, and they bring up the smoking gun quote. Bingley, who is basically a golden retriever in human form, just so happy to be there.
Totally. Just vibes.
He's trying to get Darcy to dance. He points out Elizabeth Bennet, and Darcy delivers the line that has echoed through literary history.
Let's hear it.
She is tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me.
Tolerable. Ouch. I mean, just ouch. But the key thing here, which the Reddit threads pointed out again and again, is the volume. He didn't just whisper this to Bingley in a corner.
No, the text is very clear, or at least heavily implies. He said it loudly enough for Elizabeth herself to overhear.
And that changes everything. That's a crucial detail. It's not just that he's not attracted to her. It is a public dismissal. It's a performance of his own superiority.
If you're just shy, or if you just don't want to dance, you find an excuse. You say, oh, I'm tired, or I'm sitting this one out. You don't look at a woman across the room and announce, she's a 5 out of 10, I guess.
He might as well have held up a scorecard.
Precisely. One of the Reddit users, someone going by the handle Rose's Bad Wolf, argues that this proves he's absolutely an arrogant snob in this moment. It's not shyness, it's not social anxiety. The argument from the prosecution side is that Darcy believes he is fundamentally above his company. He isn't dancing because he genuinely believes these people, the Bennets, the Lucases, the Meryton locals, are beneath him.
So engaging with them would imply some kind of equality, and he can't have that.
He is establishing a hierarchy from the second he walks in.
Yep.
He is the judge, and everyone else is just part of the scenery.
You know you've messed up when a famous poet from the 1930s is calling you out for bad manners.
W.H. Auden, yes. He was apparently shocked by this behavior.
What did he say?
Auden wrote that for the first half of the book, Darcy displays nothing but rudeness, bad manners, and acts like a stuck-up fool. He even called him socially maladroit.
Socially maladroit. That is a very polite, very academic way of saying a socially awkward jerk.
It is, but is Auden saying he is just clumsy, or is he saying he is cruel? That's the question.
What do you think?
Maladroit implies a lack of skill, a clumsiness. But Auden seems to be questioning the whole idea of breeding. You know, the aristocracy claimed that their breeding made them superior, better manners, better morals.
Right, it's baked in.
So Auden is looking at Darcy and asking, if this so-called good breeding makes you superior, why is this man so profoundly bad at the basics of human interaction?
It's the velvet rope mentality. I am rich, therefore I don't have to be nice to the little people.
Pretty much. But there is a debate on the Reddit threads about what kind of jerk he is, which I found fascinating. Is he a bad boy? Or is he a nice guy? You know, the internet tropes.
Oh, that's interesting. I can see that. So the bad boy is usually the Wickham character, right?
Exactly. The consensus on the forums is that he's neither.
The bad boy is the guy who uses charm to manipulate, who, sleeps around, who breaks the rules for fun.
That is Wickham to a T. He chimes you, borrows your money, and then runs off with your 16-year-old sister. Darcy is the opposite.
He's all about the rules.
He follows the rules, or at least his version of them, rigidly. He is not a rebel. And he is certainly not a nice guy in the modern internet sense.
No, definitely not. That's the guy who fakes kindness to get something in return, right? The milady type.
Exactly. And Darcy doesn't fake anything. That is almost the problem. He is authentically unpleasant.
So where did the Reddit thread land? What's the diagnosis?
They settled on arrogant snob. The general feeling was he has a blatant disregard for the feelings of others. But I think the most damning evidence for the prosecution isn't even the insult to Elizabeth.
No.
No, it's what he does to Jane and Bingley.
Ugh, this makes me so mad every single time I read it.
It's brutal.
You have Bingley, who is just this happy, sweet man. And Jane, who is an actual angel. They're happy. They're staring into each other's eyes. It is pure, innocent love. And Darcy just swoops in and shuts it all down.
He separates them, and he admits it. Later in the book, in that first disastrous proposal, he tells Elizabeth he did it.
And his reasoning is just pure class prejudice.
It is. We have a source here from Dr. A. Badra who really highlights this. Darcy openly admits he separated them because of Jane's inferior connections.
He literally ghosted his best friend for him.
Yeah.
That is some next-level controlling behavior.
It's incredibly paternalistic.
Imagine if your friend did that today. Hey, I blocked that girl's number on your phone because her dad doesn't make enough money and her mom is kind of embarrassing.
You'd be furious. He assumes he knows better than Bingley what is good for Bingley. He looks at the Bennet family, the loud mother, the wild younger sisters, the less than impressive estate, and he decides, no, this is not good enough for my friend. He treats Bingley like a child and Jane like a contagion.
Okay, so the prosecution rests. He insults women within earshot. He thinks he's better than everyone in the room, and he manipulates his friend's love life because the girl's dad isn't rich enough. The verdict seems pretty clear.
Jerk. It looks bad. It looks very, very bad.
Here it is. The but. I knew it was coming, because if he was just a jerk, we wouldn't still be talking to him 200 years later, would we?
Absolutely not. And this is where we have to move to the defense. And this is a defense that has gained a lot of traction in recent years, especially online, and it completely reframes all of his behavior.
Let's get into it. Section 2. The neurodivergent theory.
I found this part of the research just captivating.
Me too. We looked at these long threads from Rosacea and RPD autism where people are reading Darcy not as a snob, but as someone who is autistic or has a social anxiety disorder.
It is often called the awkward turtle interpretation.
Awkward turtle. I love that. So instead of him standing in the corner thinking, I hate all these peasants, he's actually standing in the corner thinking, oh my God, it is so loud in here. I don't know the script and I really, really want to go home.
That is the essence of it, yes. And to understand this theory, we need to look at the text again. There is a smoking gun quote for this theory, just as there was for the prosecution.
Okay.
It happens when Elizabeth challenges him on why he didn't talk to people at the assembly. I want to read his response in full because the wording is so specific. He says, I certainly have not the talent which some possess, of conversing easily with those I have never seen before. I cannot catch their tone of conversation or appear interested in their concerns, as I often see done.
I cannot catch their tone. That sounds almost technical, like he's describing a radio frequency he can't tune into.
It does, doesn't it? To a modern ear, that sounds like a textbook description of the struggle with social cues. He isn't saying I didn't want to. He's saying I don't have the talent. He observes other people doing it, appearing interested, but he views it as a skill he lacks. Like playing the piano or speaking French. He can't replicate the social mask naturally.
That changes the entire flavor of the Meryton Assembly, doesn't it? If he's overstimulated and panicked, that tolerable comment might not be a calculated insult. It might just be a defensive lash out, like, leave me alone, I can't deal with this right now, just say something to make him go away.
It could be. And the Reddit users point to other evidence. Darcy is a very literal thinker. He doesn't do mad bants, as the kids might say.
No small talk for Darcy.
None. When people try to joke with him, he freezes up. He takes things incredibly seriously. He needs clear rules. He needs structure.
And there's a great point about Bingley in these threads, too. If Darcy is the rigid, structured one, Bingley is just pure chaos energy.
Yes. Several users diagnose Bingley with ADHD.
I can totally see that. The evidence is actually hilarious when you line it up. He starts writing letters and leaves out half the words because his brain is moving too fast for his hand. The book says he blots the rest.
He changes his mind constantly. He rents a house, then he leaves, then he comes back. He's impulsive.
So you have this dynamic duo, the hyperactive, socially fluid Bingley, who can talk to anyone, but can't focus for 5 minutes.
And the rigid, socially anxious Darcy, who needs rules and silence and can't talk to strangers, they balance each other out. Darcy anchors Bingley. Bingley lubricates the social world for Darcy.
It makes so much sense. Darcy needs Bingley to navigate the social world, and Bingley needs Darcy to, actually pay the rent on time and make sure the horses are fed.
It's a very compelling theory. However, we have to be careful here, because while this interpretation is really compelling, the sources also provide a very strong counter-argument. We can't just diagnose him and let him off the hook for being a jerk.
Right, and this is the it's just privilege argument. This was championed by a Reddit user named Who the Fidgets Alice and supported by Dr. Badra's analysis as well.
The argument here is simple. Darcy can talk when he wants to.
Oh, snap. That is the pin that bursts the balloon, isn't it?
It could be. Think about it. He talks fine with Bingley. He talks fine with his cousin, Colonel Fitzwilliam. He commands a room with ease when he's at his own home at Pemberley.
He's not universally silent.
Not at all. And the counter-argument points to another line right after that catch their tone speech. Darcy says, "We neither of us perform to strangers."
Perform. That is such a choice of words. Perform.
It implies volition, a choice. He isn't saying, "I can't." He is saying, "I won't." The argument is that he views social niceties as a performance that strangers haven't paid the ticket price for.
So he doesn't think the people of Longbourn are worth the effort of masking or engaging.
That's the argument, which brings us right back to snobbery.
Right. One of the Reddit users had this really brutal but I think very accurate summary of the dance refusal. They said there are 2 ways to say no to dancing. You could say, "No thank you, I don't dance," which is awkward. Or you can say, "No F you, I don't dance." And Darcy's basically doing the second one. He's not being awkward, he's being ungentlemanly.
It's a crude but effective distinction. And this is where the concept of intersectionality comes in, which I think is the most nuanced and probably the most accurate take we found in all the research.
Intersectionality usually refers to how different identities overlap, right? Like race and gender.
Yeah.
How does it apply to a rich white guy in 1813?
Here, it's the intersection of potential neurodivergence and extreme wealth and privilege. A user pointed out that he could be both neurodivergent and a snob. The two aren't mutually exclusive.
Okay, unpack that.
Think about it. If you are a wealthy, handsome, powerful man in 1813 with 10,000 pounds a year, and you are naturally socially awkward, does anyone ever force you to learn coping mechanisms?
No, never. Everyone just calls you eccentric or mysterious and lets you get away with it because you own half of Derbyshire.
Exactly. His wealth insulates him. If he were a poor clerk and acted this way, he'd be fired. He'd be an outcast. But because he's rich, his silence is interpreted as haughty or proud. So he never had to learn to be nice. He leans into the snobbery as a defense mechanism because his privilege allows him to.
That is such a good point. So maybe he is an awkward turtle, but he's an awkward turtle with a diamond-encrusted shell who bites people when they get too close. He uses his money to buy the right to be rude.
A very dangerous turtle indeed. And this brings us to the deeper psychological game happening between him and Elizabeth. It's not just about manners, it's about power. And it's all about looking.
Let's pivot to that, because we can't talk about Darcy without talking about the tension. Section 3, the psychology of the gaze.
This takes us into the academic deep end with Jada Kuhn's paper, Mortifying the Master's Eye.
I loved this paper. It argues that Pride and Prejudice isn't just a romance novel, it's an observational drama. It's all about who is looking at whom and what that looking means.
Right. In the 19th century, the gaze was power. Think about walking into a high-end store. If the security guard is watching you, he has the power. You are the object being watched. You immediately feel self-conscious.
So when we first meet Darcy, he is the security guard of the ballroom.
He possesses the master's gaze. He walks into the room and scans it like he's appraising livestock. He looks at Elizabeth specifically to criticize her.
He's cataloging her flaws.
Yes. The book says he notices she has more than one failure of perfect symmetry.
Which, by the way, who says that? I notice your face isn't perfectly symmetrical. Dude, look in a mirror. Nobody's is.
He is trying to turn her into a surveyable object. By finding her flaws, he maintains his superiority. If she is imperfect, she can't hurt him. She can't tempt him. He's using his eyes to keep her at a distance.
But then, the shift happens. Elizabeth looks back.
And this is the absolute crux of Kuhn's argument. Elizabeth refuses to be an object. She returns the gaze. She laughs at him. She looks him dead in the eye and challenges his visual authority.
And that is what destabilizes him.
Completely. He is not used to the painting looking back at the painter. He's not used to being seen.
And there is that moment. Kuhn analyzes where they meet unexpectedly at Pemberley, and they both blush.
The blush is so critical here. A blush is involuntary. You cannot command yourself not to blush. It is the body betraying the mind's attempt at control.
It's the cracks in the armor show.
Koons calls it a sign of mortification, but she uses that word in its older sense, making the flesh dead, or rather, the death of the social mask. It levels the playing field.
I like that.
When Darcy blushes, he is no longer the master observing the world. He is a vulnerable human being who has been seen by someone else. He moves from the gaze, which is judgmental and dominant, to the look, which is vulnerable and acknowledges the other person as a subject, not an object.
So the romance is basically him learning to stop staring and start seeing.
Beautifully put. He has to stop analyzing her symmetry and start seeing her humanity.
Now, speaking of seeing things,
Yeah.
we have to talk about the muddy petticoat incident.
Ah, yes. A pivotal scene.
It's a great scene. Elizabeth walks 3 miles through the mud to visit her sick sister, Jane. She shows up at Netherfield with dirty skirts, a flushed face, her hair all blown about, and the Bingley sisters are horrified.
They think it is unladylike. They think she looks wild. It violates all their rules of polite society.
But Darcy sees something completely different.
He certainly does.
We have a quote here from the Bookhaven about Andrew Davies. He's the guy who wrote the famous 1995 BBC adaptation, you know, the one with Colin Firth in the lake.
The wet shirt scene that launched 1,000 ships,
Yeah.
and probably a few million memes.
Exactly. So Andrew Davies famously said that when Darcy sees Elizabeth show up covered in mud, he has an instant erection.
He was quite literal about it, wasn't he? No room for interpretation there.
He did clarify that he didn't mean, that we need to zoom in on Colin Firth's trousers, but that the actor should play it that way, that he is just viscerally turned on by her heart-throbbing, muddy, warm vitality.
It is a very modern, very explicit way to describe what Austen does much more subtly in the text. The source notes that Austen doesn't write smut. There are no bodice-ripping scenes.
No.
But she uses erotic sublimation.
Erotic sublimation. That sounds like a band name. Or a very expensive perfume.
It means the desire is repressed, which only makes it stronger. The tension is what drives the narrative. Darcy is a man of rigid, almost absolute control. He lives in pristine drawing rooms and clean carriages.
And seeing Elizabeth essentially wild, muddy, exercising, glowing with health, it breaks through that control. It's nature breaking through culture.
Exactly. The Bingley sisters are all culture. They are stiff, clean, proper, and frankly, boring. Elizabeth is nature. She's alive.
And Darcy, despite all his snobbery and his rules, is drawn to the life in her. If he just said, hey, you look hot in mud, it would be kind of gross. But because he is fighting it so hard, in vain I have struggled, it becomes romantic.
The conflict between his master's gaze, which is judging her, and his raw physical reaction, which is desire, is what makes the character so compelling.
Okay, so we've established he's a jerk, possibly neurodivergent, and definitely horny but repressing it.
A fair summary.
But we need to zoom out. We need to look at the world he was living in. Section 4, the historical context.
This is where Dr. Badger's paper on the concept of the gentleman is so helpful. Because gentleman didn't mean just one thing in 1813. It was a concept in flux.
Right. Badger breaks it down into concepts. Concept 1 versus concept 3. What happened to concept 2? Did we skip a chapter?
We skipped it for brevity, but concept 1 is the important starting point. It's the conservative gentleman. This is what Darcy starts as.
And what does that mean?
A gentleman is defined by birth, rank, and strict adherence to class boundaries. It is about who your father was and how much land you owned. Full stop.
So, I am rich, therefore I am good. It's an external definition.
Essentially, yes. But then there's concept 3, the liberal or nature's gentleman. This defines a gentleman by his inner nature, his strong mind, and his gentle heart. It's about character, not lineage.
And that's the shift Darcy has to make. He has to go from believing his blood makes him superior to having to prove his character makes him worthy.
And this mirrors a huge shift in masculinity that was happening at the time. The 18th century, the era just before this, prized exaggerated politeness. Think of the French court. Bowing, flowery language, never being offensive.
That is Bingley.
That is exactly Bingley. He is an 18th century man, pleasant, agreeable, delicate. He just wants everyone to be happy all the time.
And Darcy is the upgrade, the gentleman 2.0.
Darcy is the 19th century update. The Victorian era is just around the corner. Masculinity is becoming brooding, tougher, more serious, more internal.
So Darcy really was the original emo boy, replacing the golden retriever boyfriend. He's the grim, dark reboot of the gentleman.
In a way, yes. He signals a move towards authenticity over politeness. He is rude, but he is honest. In an era of fake politeness and flattery, that was actually quite radical and, to some, attractive.
But let's talk about the money, because we absolutely cannot ignore the cash. The sources say Darcy makes £10,000 a year.
Which is an astronomical, almost incomprehensible sum for the time.
Can you put that in context for us? Because 10,000 doesn't sound like that much to a modern ear.
Okay, so Mr. Bennet, Elizabeth's father, he's a gentleman with an estate. He's doing okay for himself. He makes £2,000 a year.
So Darcy is 5 times richer than the Bennets.
Yeah.
Which is a lot, but still.
It's not just the multiplier, it's the tier it puts you in. 2,000 is comfortable country gentry. You have a few servants, a carriage, you eat well. 10,000 is comparable to the aristocracy. It is, I own the town money.
What does that kind of money buy you in 1813?
It buys you political influence. It buys you a London house and a massive country estate like Pemberley. It supports dozens, maybe hundreds of tenant families. It means you are a mini monarch in your region. Your word is law.
That puts the pressure on him in a new light. We tend to think of him as just a guy falling for a girl. But structurally, this was a massive business transaction he was messing up.
Absolutely. Marriage for his class was an economic alliance. By pursuing Elizabeth, who has no money and inferior connections, Darcy is actively devaluing his own estate in the eyes of his peers. He is breaking the most important rules of his class.
And his aunt, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, is the enforcer of those rules.
She represents the old system, the rigid Concept 1 system. She sees Elizabeth's sphere as contaminating Darcy's. When she says Elizabeth will pollute the shades of Pemberley, she means it almost literally. She thinks Elizabeth's lower status will degrade the value and purity of the entire lineage.
So when Darcy acts like a jerk about Elizabeth's family in that first proposal, he isn't just being mean. He is voicing the cold, hard economic reality of his world.
He's stating what he sees as facts, albeit cruelly and without tact. In his world, the Bennet family is a liability. His struggle isn't just, she's kind of annoying, it's marrying her will cost me social and economic capital.
Okay, so he starts as a Concept 1 snob with a lot of money and a broodiness problem.
Yeah.
The question is, does he actually change? Or do we just get used to him? Section 5, the transformation.
This is a really hot topic on the Reddit threads. There is this little-known theory that Darcy never actually changed at all.
The he was always a good guy theory.
Pretty much. The argument is Darcy was always responsible. He was always a good brother to his sister Georgiana. He was always a benevolent, fair landlord to his tenants at Pemberley. He didn't undergo a personality transplant.
Right, so the Reddit users argue that the story is actually about Elizabeth changing. She's the one who realizes she was prejudiced. She judged him based on a bad first impression and Wickham's very convincing lies. So she fixes her glasses, and suddenly he looks great.
There's definitely truth to that. Elizabeth is absolutely prejudiced, but I think it goes too far to say he doesn't change at all. He does change his behavior.
A manners thing.
Yes. He realizes that being good in principle isn't enough if you are rude in practice. He learns that he has to actually be nice to people, even people he doesn't know or who can't do anything for him.
And Dr. Badra brings in this beautiful concept of the head and heart.
This draws on Virginia Woolf's ideas, actually. The theory is that Darcy starts as pure head. He is all rationality, principle, judgment. He separates Jane and Bingley because it is the logical thing to do from his perspective.
And Elizabeth starts as heart, emotion, playfulness, impulse. She dislikes Darcy because it feels right based on her first impression.
And the marriage is the synthesis, the resolution.
It is the ultimate power couple move. They complete each other's personality deficits.
Exactly. By the end, Darcy acquires heart. He learns graciousness and empathy, and Elizabeth acquires head. She learns to judge more carefully and see past her initial feelings. They become a unified whole.
But we need proof. We're still in a trial here. What is the definitive proof that he actually changed his core beliefs?
We have the ultimate proof. It is the Gardner test.
Good gardeners. I love the gardeners. They are Elizabeth's aunt and uncle.
And crucially, they are in trade. They work for a living. They're middle class. They live in Cheapside, which was the unfashionable commercial part of London. To the Concept 1 Darcy, at the beginning of the book, they would be invisible. He would never speak to them.
But then they show up at Pemberley with Elizabeth, the moment of truth.
And what does he do? He meets them. And he doesn't just tolerate them or give them a stiff nod. He invites the uncle, Mr. Gardner, to come fish on his private estate.
The fishing invite is huge. That's sacred guy time. That is not something you do out of polite obligation. That is come hang out in my backyard.
It is. And the sources really emphasize this. He treats them with the greatest civility. He introduces them to his beloved sister. This proves it is not just about being horny for Elizabeth.
Right.
He isn't just tolerating her family to get to her. He genuinely respects the Gardners.
Because they are nature's gentlemen.
Exactly. He sees that despite their lower class, they are refined, intelligent, good people. He dismantles his own class prejudice in that moment. That is a fundamental change in his worldview. If he hadn't changed, he would have ignored them or been condescendingly polite. But he treats them as equals.
He stopped checking their bank account and started checking their vibe.
In a manner of speaking, yes. That's a good way to put it.
Which leads us to the final showdown, Section 6, the verdict. And I think the best way to judge him is to look at the two proposals side by side, the before and after snapshots of Darcy.
Yes, we absolutely have to analyze the text here. Proposal number 1 is a train wreck. It is an absolute masterclass in how not to propose.
It is the original negging proposal.
Listen to the words he uses. He starts with, "In vain I have struggled, it will not do, my feelings will not be repressed."
Okay, that starts, okay. A little dramatic, but it's romantic, I guess.
But then he spends the next 10 minutes listing all her inferiority, the degradation of marrying her, and how much his family will hate it. He frames the entire thing as, "I like you against my better judgment."
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I love you even though your family sucks and you have no money, and this is a huge embarrassment for me. You're welcome.
It is pure concept 1, gentlemen. Arrogant, self-centered. The subject of every single sentence is I. I have struggled, my feelings, my family. He genuinely expects her to be grateful that he is lowering himself to her level.
And he is absolutely shocked when she says no.
He is mortified. There's that word again. He cannot believe that his wealth and his rank didn't automatically buy her yes.
Okay, so that's the before. Then proposal number 2, the resolution. This happens at the very, very end of the book.
And it is completely different. The language, the tone, the entire focus has shifted. He says, "You are too generous to trifle with me. If your feelings are still what they were, tell me so at once."
The focus shifts.
The subject becomes you. You are too generous. If your feelings are what they were. He gives her the power. He says, "One word from you will silence me on this subject forever."
He respects her. No. He
Yeah.
acknowledges her agency.
Yes, he has transcended his social and sexual egocentricity, as one scholar put it. He isn't trying to possess her or bestow his favor upon her. He is asking to be with her. He is vulnerable. He knows she might say no again, and he is fully prepared to accept that.
And that right there is the difference between a jerk and a hero.
Yeah.
The capacity to learn. The ability to change.
Exactly. That's the whole arc.
So was Mr. Darcy a jerk?
He was. Yeah.
He absolutely was, no question.
He started as a jerk. A wealthy, privileged, possibly neurodivergent, definitely repressing his emotions jerk. He was a product of a class system that taught him he was practically a god.
But he did the work. He went to therapy, or, the 19th century equivalent, which is getting brutally rejected by the woman you love and then staring into a fire for 6 months.
And writing a very long, very detailed letter explaining himself. That was his therapy.
And that is why he's the hero. Not because he was perfect from the start, but because he fixed it. He took the feedback. He listened.
He allowed himself to be mortified. He allowed himself to be seen through her eyes, and he didn't like what he saw, so he changed it. He came out the other side a better man.
So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. We have stripped away the $10,000 a year, the Pemberley estate, the wet shirt.
A tragedy to lose the shirt, but go on.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
If you met Mr. Darcy today, let's say at a bar or a house party, he is standing in the corner, refusing to dance, looking at his phone, maybe making a rude comment about the music being tolerable. He doesn't have a castle to back it up. Would you think he was mysterious and brooding, or would you just think, what is that guy's problem?
It is a valid question. Without the power and the context of his eventual transformation, he might just be the rude guy at the party. We forgive him because he's rich and because it's fiction and we know how it ends.
And this is the other side of it.
Or, to bring it back to that performance idea we talked about, in a world where everyone is constantly performing for Instagram, everyone is faking nice, everyone is trying to sell you their personal brand, maybe the one guy in the room refusing to perform is the only authentic person there.
Mind blown. Maybe the jerk is the only honest man left.
Perhaps. Or perhaps he just needs to learn to catch the tone of the conversation. Authenticity is great, but kindness is probably better.
I think that's a good place to end. We may never know. Listeners, thank you for diving deep with us.
Yeah.
Mind your manners, bow when appropriate.
But don't let your aunt tell you who to marry.
See you next time.